Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's April 7th. Here in Montana, it's drizzly and rainy and cold. And who knows what we're going to be able to see in the sky in the next couple of days because it's just rainy season here. So, we're going to talk about solar flares, this eclipse, and the element of fire. And I'm going to bring them together for you today. And we're going to play with them. And I've been playing with them all week. And it's been coming up a lot with my clients. So I thought this would be a fabulous conversation to have with each of you at this time. So thank you for joining me. And wow, what I would start with is that it's been a quiet week, one of the quietest weeks we've had in a long time as far as solar flares. Like just a few low class C, a little bit of a geomagnetic storm, but not a lot. And oh wow. It's as if my nervous system, our nervous systems can sort of relax for a while, right? So how are you feeling? What are you what are you noticing? Are you resting? Are you taking care of yourself? Because yeah, the solar flares have stopped, but we also have, with all these daily activations, our system's been just kind of like dealing with it all the time. And so our nervous system needs to relax. But we also have this eclipse that's been looming over us. And if you watch the news or if you listen to all of the predictions, it's just like this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is what you could expect, blah, 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 right? So this eclipse is on April 8th. It's going to cross the United States. Um, what do I really want to say about that? Um, it is an opportunity for this crossing of one point of the US where there's up to 4 minutes of darkness where the sun is blocked and there's just absolutely no ability to be affected by the sun for about 4 minutes, especially if you're in the line of totality, right? And I know about this because I was in the line of totality. I actually drove to Idaho and stood in the line of totality and watched the shade line of darkness come up and cross over me and then leave. And so there was like the anticipation, the preparation, the getting my body ready for it, and then sort of standing there and welcoming it. And what I would tell you is that something different, something really unique happened to me during that August 21st, 2017 eclipse. Because as I stood there and let that shadow line come closer, and then as it hit my body, I felt like I lifted up off the ground and I was full of these effervescent bubbles. And I could feel complete joy and complete bliss and freedom. Like I was detached from anything in the 3D. I was just in this floating, bubbly, wonderful place. And what I noticed was that there was playfulness, there was love, there was light, there was desire. I wanted to find out how to recreate that. What is this going to be? What is this life going to look like now that I felt this? And so that bubbling of ideas of that follow this experience of this spark of all of that, this desire. So I was reading Pam Youngins of all things because the eclipse is in Aries, it's in a fire sign. We've had all of this heat and energy coming at us from the sun. So I looked at the word desire, and it's sort of like we've been equating this eclipse with our heart's desire. What is it that brings you meaning? What is it that you want? So her way of describing desire was beautiful. It's to long for, to want, to be inspired by, to desire to learn more, right? It's the thing that moves us towards what we want to do. It's the way that we grow. It's the way that we find meaning. It's the way that we begin, right? And it's how we prepare our hearts for change, or our hearts take us into change, right? Our hearts lead us like, oh, I want that. And so what I learned in 2017 is I want more of that, whatever that is, whatever happened there. How do I allow myself or create opportunities for that to happen more often, right? So desire holds the seeker. It holds the mover. It's the energetic medium that takes our passions, the things that catch our attention, our enthusiasm, and it sort of attaches it to something, whether you're a scholar, whether you're a builder, whether you're a cook, whether you're a parent, whether you love the work you do. It's where our desire comes up, right? So desire is part of fire. It's the element of fire. So within, and I'm also sort of simultaneously, uh, probably accidentally teaching a three level now tarot class. I started with an introduction to tarot that went to tarot 2 and is now in tarot 3. So we're doing the really deeper connection pieces of tarot. So starting with the elements, right? Um, it goes fire. So here, this is a monoprint that was done by my partner in the teaching the class, Holly Reif. She's a creative, she's a phenomenal artist. And this is what the tarot card looks like, right? So this is fire. And then what happens is it goes, whoa, let me put it in the other one. It goes to water, right? So here's the print that Holly did of water, and here's the cups, right? This is how cups shows up. So fire, wands, water, cups. Okay, and let me just keep doing this so that we can get the idea. Swords. Here's the silver. Here's the thoughts. You can see the images in the background. And this is the Ace of Swords. This is where thought and the mind comes in, right? This is our mental. And then what we have is earth. And I love how Holly grabbed all of the, whoops, on this one, grabbed all of the earth colors, the greens, the browns, the yellows. And you can see all of these in so beautifully in the pine cone figures and the symbols of the pentacles, right? So when we take these four elements, what I wanted to share with you is something that I've been working on in the class and really driving home, which is what happens is that we get fire. We get desire. Our desire is opened up, a spark of like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. This is what I love. This matters to me, right? So when we have this spark, and I'm going to go here, then it moves over to water. If you look at how the tarot cards are set up, they go fire, water, right? So when it goes to water, what happens is we start to feel this. We start to feel it, and as we're feeling it, we're putting out these pulses, these vibrations, this information that spreads around our field, into our house, into our work, into everything. So everything that we feel ends up being patterned with our emotions, which then is picked up, right? I'm going to switch hands here. Picked up, our emotions are picked up and noticed by our minds. And they're like, wow, when the water's really choppy, is she angry? Is she excited? When I see this, how do I put this into language or construct? So the mind is the one that brings the intellect in and says, oh, I'm noticing this, and this is how I'm going to define it and present it to the world, right? And then what happens is that it goes from the mental construct into form on the 3D. It goes into earth. So it's really exciting to see that we're starting with fire, and then we're going to have these feelings, and then we're going to put a new construct onto what is happening, and then we're going to embody it into earth. So this is how the tarot works. This is how the energy system takes things in, is it goes through these four beautifully. So what we want to remember is that fire is where all of this starts. And we're going into a season of fire that is incredible, right? So when we've been hit by these geomagnetic storms, they've been igniting our fire. When we are hit by the energy of them, they're igniting our desire, our imagination. When those flares go up to high M class or X class, they're just igniting our own imagination, right? And when the sun is blocked for a few minutes, I wonder what happens when the water and our intuition and sort of the deeper remembering can come forward. So I think there's something really possible with this eclipse that, I don't know, we're gonna meet on the other side of it next week and go, what did you see? What did you feel? And again, it's not a coincidence because when we go back to 2017, in 2016 and 17, there were enormous, and 2018, there were an enormous amount of solar flares that just kept pummeling the Earth prior to, during, and after the 2017 eclipse, right? So there's so much happening right now that we can't define, we can't put our fingers on yet. It's important, right? So some of us are going to feel this, and some of us are going to feel something, and some of us are going to like feel shaken. We're going to be shook. We're going to like dust off some of these things that have been happening to us, and we're going to have inspiration come in, and we're going to want to do something different. I know from 2017 forward, I changed a lot of the direction that I was going with my coaching. You've seen me. Some of you think I'm crazy. Some of you don't know exactly what happened. Well, I'm telling you, that eclipse picked me up, filled me full of bubbles, and took me on a new path. So I have 6 tips for you, compassionate, warm, nurturing tips for you to think of. Whether you're in the line of totality, whether you're aware of the eclipse, whether it is something you can see or something you can just hold and be aware of that it's happening to our planet at this time, right? So the first one is that something new is trying to come through. And so it's trying to get your attention. So that desire is going like tap, 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 tap. It's sort of going like, hey, what about this? What about this? So let's go back to the fire. The fire's like igniting this spark, and it's touching you, and it's saying, what are you feeling? What is trying to get your attention? What's calling at you, right? What's calling within you? Why is this fire affecting us so much? It's affecting every part of our body. So, number one, something's trying to get your attention. Just recognize that. Number two, throughout the day of the eclipse, create ways to quiet your nervous system. Just keep quieting and listen. Seek within. Go, especially during that, especially I think it's 12:20, 12:30 to 2:30, 3 o'clock. So that time frame in the Montana mountain time frame is when the eclipse is at its peak. So like sit down and go, what do I desire? What do I want right now? Right? What's nudging me? How do I open to it? How do I listen to it? How do I listen to my heart? How do I listen to my soul? And then how do I like pay attention to my clairs? What am I hearing? What am I smelling? What am I knowing inside of me, right? When this fire, it's all in Aries, all in the eclipse, starts to hit us, right? So number 3, when you get some clarity from these experiences, like my clarity was, I felt so free. I felt joy. I felt the absolute bubbling of joy during the eclipse, right? When we feel this during and the weeks to follow, right? Know that, like there's this little delicate flame. This little piece of fire is similar to what happens when you're trying to start a fire out in a campground. You might have some wet wood. You might not have any paper. You're using a little bit of pine needles or something that catches fast, but you got 1 or 2 matches, or you just don't know if it's going to take. You let it go. You let it start, and then you tender it. You sort of oh, you blow on it and you let it like get, because this is going to be the fire that keeps you warm tonight. So you want to be really delicate with it, and you want to hold it inside, because fire and water, you want to hold it inside and you want to feel it, because this is where the alchemy, this is how change happens. This is where our power is. Then we put it into mental construct and we start to bring it into form. That goes into the next step, action. It's how we allow ourselves to have fire inspire us, and then how we feel it, which is where our magic is. So just know that you're going to get some clarity, and it's going to take a little bit of time to sort of slowly nurture it. It's going to take that day, the next week. It might take a month or a year afterwards to go like, what just happened and what just opened me up, right? So you're going to get clarity. Just know that. And then number 4 is notice the emotions that you're having. Is there a softening? Is there a warmth to you? Is there anger or fear? Like, what the heck? This cannot happen. Or totally frustration that, oh my God, look how far I've gotten down this direction that's not working. So I was talking with with Holly, we were talking about change, and what we notice is that there are times when we think, "Oh, we just did a little bit, and we're just making a little bit of adjustments, or we're just a little bit of apart." But as you sort of take that 1 degree of separation, right, and it starts to go out, what we realize is that by the time we're in our 30s, 40s, 50s, we could be miles apart. So much distance between where we wanted to be, what our heart wanted, and where we actually are. That now we're and understand that that might bring up some anger, some frustration, some blaming, some pointing, and you're like, I don't know how I got here in this spot. This is when we want to be gentle and we want to be compassionate because, wow, we just got some real information that said, there's some change. There's another possibility. There's something else that can happen here with this eclipse, right? So now we have to start moving with it, and we're going to do that gently, right? So so that's the next. That was number 4, which is to look at the emotions and the feelings, and to realize that you're going to have a lot of the spectrum of them, anything from absolute joy to furious anger, and you're going to be wobbling back and forth as you're coming to terms with what it takes to follow this desire. Right? Number 5, when you follow the spark inside of you, be patient with how to bring it in, how to construct it into structure, right? Because it goes fire, and then we're going to feel it, and then the next thing is that our mind's going to try to put it into some sort of construct, like, what does that mean? How do I do that? Do I quit my job? Do I end my marriage? Do I talk to my partner? Do I start some therapy to sort of bring this through? Do I sit back and smile and go, there's a plan. Now I have a plan. How do we bring this into construct? Because this isn't above here. We're not noticing this and applying it. This drives it all. Now our brain can start to kick in and go, we're working with this fire, we're working with this desire. And depending on how many layers you have, it could take you a while to start making some changes, whether you're carrying extra weight, whether you're in financial debt, whether you have built an entire world around a salary that you hate creating, going to work to get. This means the layers are going to start falling off, and the construct of how am I going to do that? What's that going to look like in my world when I start bringing this into form? So this is where the action part starts, and that's where it's kind of like, wow, how do you keep this flame alive inside of you as you're bringing yourself into some of these changes? And then the last one, number 6, of course, is to have compassion, because you're ignited. You're having this passion, this exuberance. You're in it. Your partner might be in it or not. Your family may look at you and go, there she goes again. She gets really excited about things. If we could just, like in the real world, Denise, all of these things, just realize, just have compassion for them. They haven't been touched. Their fire, their desire hasn't been touched, or is touched in a different way. We don't know. We have compassion because we're all doing it differently, and we're all doing it in our own unique ways, right? It's just, it's something that's going to be spiraling us, awakening us, having us circulate all of our desire into the world. And what's that going to look like, and what's it going to be? So we have compassion. So I'll see you on the flip side of all of this. Who knows if this flares are going to be quiet next week? All I know is that for right now, pay attention to what your heart desires and what you'd like to create, because you have this wonderful possibility of going through all of these steps, right? And creating something beautiful. I'll see you on the flip side. Take care. Bye bye.